Hi, I'm Walter, I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast, where S is for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T for building a thriving community, and of course, P for performance. I'm really happy to have Helen with me all the way from Geneva. Although with the internet, we're all next to each other, might as well sip and coffee in the same room. We're going to have a talk about taking action and about why we still get nervous, or why nervousness actually is a good thing as we learn to lead with confident humility. Helen, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thanks for having me, Walter. My name is Helen von Dadelson, and as your listeners will tell from my accent, I'm not from Switzerland, I'm from New Zealand, but I've now lived half my life in Europe. I am a communications coach and a vocal trainer. And my mission is really to help very smart people with incredible messages get those out into the world with clarity and confidence. And I'm also the author of Courageous Action, which is a very practical book to help people get unstuck from the stage fright that many of us suffer from.
Listen, I love the word courageous and the word action, and putting them together must make for a very powerful book because, again, to the audience today, it is important to do something with the information today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Certainly don't wait until Monday morning because you will probably have long forgotten about this. So, Helen, I always like to start at a problem statement because obviously you came up with a solution. So tell us a little bit about your personal experience or experience of your clients about why did they need help? What
So the underlying problem of most people is that they are technically excellent at what they do. Whether they're an engineer or a teacher or a dentist, whatever it is, we get trained to be technically excellent at that. And then at some stage, many people get put into a leadership role. And that is where the technical skills only go so far, because this is when we need to actually communicate our ideas to our team, to external stakeholders, maybe to the board, investors. And I find that most people have not spent enough, if any, time on working on their communication skills. And the challenge for many is because it's a muscle that they haven't worked, they feel nervous. So heart racing, butterflies in the stomach, shaking hands, blank mind, all symptoms that you're in fight or flight. They feel these feelings and they say, oh, gosh, danger, stop, don't do it. And they stay silent or they speak small. And this is something that holds them back in their career and in their personal life. Because if we're not communicating our ideas to the world, then they're only staying in our heads. And that is not why we're in the leadership positions that we're put in.
I love, and you are so very intentional in how you are articulating and how you're using the cadence of your speech to make sure that every single word you speak is it can be heard and can be processed by our brain. I think communication is at the foundation. I always say, what are the three most likely common failures? It's selective communication, communication, and communication. I see this very much in people who are looking to get promoted. And so this is not only standing up in front of a team or a large crowd or is at a meeting. This could be in a one-to-one or one-to-two, interview process where people lock up and not able to clearly articulate their story. So it is critically important of a skill that needs to be practiced over and over and over, and people overlook that often. And then they wonder, hey, why am I not hitting home runs here? And I always say to people, I said, record your interviews, right? At least in your telephone, so you can listen to it back, send it to a coach or mentor. And often we can find exactly why they are not getting promoted or why they're not getting invited to come back because their communication skills are weak. So now that we have well established, the foundation that, if you are not a good communicator, if you don't articulate, if you don't have a good cadence, you're likely going to fall short. So what is the action steps that you take with your clients in order to start on the path of, let's say, recovery?
So the first thing is to recognize that the reactions in your body to go into fight or flight are totally human and totally normal. we interpret them as a problem and a danger sign to actually stop. But it's normal. It means that we care, that this is important. And also those reactions in their body, we can also interpret in a different way. If I said to you, I've got a surprise for you, I've got a present, you know, your heart skips a beat. Your stomach gets a little bit rumbly. And so it's the same reactions in our body to excitement as it is to nervousness. And so sometimes we walk around saying, oh, I'm nervous. Oh, I feel, oh, my hands are shaking. We get fixated on all of these reactions in our body and we label them as nervousness or stage fright, when in fact we could just say, oh, this means I'm alive, I'm ready, I'm connected to my body, this matters. And that's the adrenaline that can actually feed my communication and my connection with the other person. So that's the first thing. Really recognize it is normal. It's not something to not feel. And the second thing is to get yourself into a more effective state, right? When we are in a nervous state, in fight or flight, that is all we can do. We can't think clearly, so we can't articulate our ideas. We can't even listen clearly well to what is actually being asked us. And we definitely can't add a layer into our communication in terms of, as you said, using cadence, using our hands effectively, looking the person in the eye. All of that gets shut down because we're in a state of fight or flight or flee. So we want to, our body is getting ready for an emergency. And so the easiest way to take action there that I've found, and I've found with my clients, is to concentrate on your breathing. Very actionable. We've got our breath with us all the time, and through some more constructive breathing with a longer exhale, we can reset our nervous system into a more productive state so that we can better communicate our ideas to the world.
I love it. I think the square breathing techniques that are so critically important to help your central nervous system calm down. And I've had many clients practice that, and there's been real results from it. So it's not something that we just read about. We've practiced ourselves. We have seen it with the clients. And it's certainly, the 2.5 minutes it takes for you to kind of sort of reset. And the same thing is about that nervousness, that those butterflies in your belly. I think it is extremely important to have that, right? Because it does show that you really care about what it is that you say. The word of caution is that some people over practice and they lose that organicness of their presentation itself, and that is something you need to be mindful about too. We're not trying to make actors or actresses who are reading off a script. It needs to come from the heart and connect it all to the audience that you're speaking to, and not all audiences are exactly alike. So we have understand that most of us suffer from this. Most of us need to understand that it is a natural behavior, a natural phenomenon. We need to help settle our central nervous system, and then we need to step back. So what is something that people can do? Let's say if they need to present to a presentation to a small group of, let's say, 10 to 20 people. What are some of the things that they should do leading up to that particular meeting to be in the best possible presentation mode?
Sure. So as you said, over preparation is not good either, because then you become like a robot. But the preparation that I find works really well is to understand your audience. What do they need? What do they expect? What do they want? What do they already know about the subject? The better you know your audience, the better you can tailor your communications. And the second point is to think at the end of this meeting, this presentation, this interview, what do I want those audience members to think, feel, or do? And if you have the audience and the transformation clear, then even if your 10 minutes is suddenly shrunk down to 5 minutes, or you've lost your papers or your PowerPoint doesn't work, you can still stick to that and likely get your message across with clarity. So to think and feel something is required for someone to do something. If you want someone to hire you, for example, you were saying with interviews, you want the person in front of you to think that you're competent, that you'd be a good colleague. They want to feel that you're being genuine, that you've got some value to add, right? All of these things. And therefore, along the process, the ultimate is to give you the offer for the job or the mandate. So that's what I would say is the most important preparation. Have that crystal clear, and it doesn't take long, but it makes a huge difference. And it's also a framework which is quite agile depending on the situation that you're put in.
Yeah, and the thing I would add to that is that people who wing it, who don't know the materials other than just skin deep, often get into trouble. Right? Is when that first or second question comes and they say, "Uh-oh." Now,
Mm-hmm.
as a speaker, you don't need to have all of the answers, but you do need to be prepared, right? You do need to be a subject matter expert at what you are presenting, and it needs to do with some level of fluency. The other thing is when people go into meetings, and I would have cautioned everybody on that is that if you're going to be presenting data, don't present the data on the day that you are presenting. Provide the data 2 or 3 days ahead of time. Let people
Mm-hmm.
scrutinize that because I primarily work in the healthcare industry. Doctors who are scientists love to take your data that you're presenting apart and nitpicking. And it often, it takes, 30, 40 minutes away from the actual discussion just to come up, do we have the right p-value attached to a data point? So don't fall into that trap, right? Proper preparation, being a subject matter expert, knowing your information, that helps you with leading with confident humility while you still remain open to feedback and getting that point across. So my problem has always been my cadence of my speech. I get excited. I speak very fast. When I speak fast, because my Dutch accent, I lose articulation. Sometimes you can't. So I actually put somebody in the audience who rubs their head, if my cadence goes above what it should be, as in my peripheral vision, I can see that and slow things out. Give me some techniques that you would teach a client that when they go to a meeting and when they fall back onto their bad habits, that they can notice that in real time and how they can correct that.
Yeah, I love that. Knowledge is power. We can't work on something that we're not aware of. So
Mm-hmm.
first you need to identify what are those communication foibles that you can correct, or how do you want to come across? And speaking too quickly is very, very common. And we somehow think that we sound more confident and professional if we sort of brain dump on our audience, and that's not the case. So yeah, having someone in the audience who's helping you recognize that's a great one. I've got a handy post-it on my screen that says slow, because I also get excited and I speed up. Then there are daily habits that can be really helpful. Basically, communication is a habit. So if you want to change that habit, you need to do it regularly and consistently. So one of the things that helps people, for example, with articulating more clearly, is to take a pen or a straw and practice speaking with that in your mouth, which means that you have to over articulate. You do that for 1 minute every morning. After a couple of weeks, you will see that you are using your mouth more. That's a great one. Practicing breathing techniques before you're stressed is also a good one, because when you stand up on stage and suddenly feel nervous, you're not going to remember, what did Helen say? Which technique should I use? Am I breathing in, breathing out? Right? So practicing these, finding the techniques that work you in advance. So there's a couple of ideas that I have for your audience. There's nothing magical about any of it. We know a lot of it. But as you'll always say, it's about the action. And the more consistent we are in taking that action to create a new communication habit, the more it will become our own. And you'll find one day you'll forget, and you'll automatically be able to slow down your pace and manage that.
And I'll add to that is that don't expect for you to be an expert in 2 or 3 attempts. This takes consistent practice, 60 to 90 to 120 days, 15 minutes a day, whatever may be the case, or repetitions per day, in order to create that new normal. I was going to ask you to put the pen in your mouth and demonstrate to me what that looks like for a funny moment, but that makes sense, right? It really is important. So give me a minute version of what is inside.
Sure. The whole premise behind courageous action is that you are not born with confidence. It's something that you can build with consistent action to build up your competence, to work that muscle. so that you can trust yourself more, gather the evidence that you can do it, and slowly build your confidence. And what I would also say is, it is a lifelong practice. There are moments, even though I'm speaking to multiple people in multiple languages every day, where my body is screaming, run away, danger. And I have to coach myself. So it's something that is human, is normal, and is something that you can learn to work with. And you need to if you want to get your message out into the world.
And the outcome is that you get to lead with confidence and humility, right? And that's exactly what the Pure Leadership Power Program is all about too. Helen, where can we find you?
The best way to find me is on LinkedIn, if you can spell my name, which will be in the link. So it's Helen von Dadelson. Otherwise, you can find my book on Amazon. It's in Kindle format and paperback, Courageous Action.
Well, thank you very much. In the show notes, of course, will be both those notations and people can be able to find it there. And again, folks, as we're listening to this, it is about taking meaningful action. So make that 1 or 2 commitments, not 5 or 6, right? If everything is important, nothing is important. Do 1 or 2 things, write it down on your calendar, practice it every single day for the next 60 days. And you will see that you have made real strides in becoming a better communicator. And you will see out of that better performance as you go for promotional interviews, or if you are presenting and trying to get your point across, right? Clarity leads to better outcomes, right? It's critically important, especially for leaders. It's really a good exercise for people who are in high school all the way through adulthood, right? So there's no age limitation on this. Helen, give me your final parting thoughts or comments.
I think you've already said it. It starts with 1 step. If you are trying to build anything, to improve anything, don't immediately expect you can do a TEDx if you're feeling terrified about putting your hand up. Figure out what is that 1 small step that I can do and do it. And if you need support doing it, get support doing it, whether that's your boss, your mentor, a friend, a partner, or a coach. Get that support, because we don't need to do this all alone either.
100% agree. Always remember that nobody went to the Olympics last year or in a couple of years from now, again, without having a good coach and mentor. That's why you have people like Helen and myself out there. You do not need to go at it alone, as Brene Brown always tells us. I cannot wait. I always do my breathing exercise, but I'm going to try to put that pen in my mouth and see what that looks like in the mirror. After I stop laughing, maybe I'll learn to articulate better as well. Helen, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I really, really appreciate that. I'm again, to the audience, take some actions here. That's where you drive better outcomes for yourself. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see everybody soon again. Helen, auf Wiedersehen and einen guten Tag.
Guten Tag.